So I had told you that testis was the primary sex organ. And apart from that, we have other organs like the epididymis, the vas deferens. Um, these help in the various reproductive functions. Their function is to carry gametes. Now, coming to the vas deferens, we can just have a quick recap of what we did yesterday. So, epididymis has three parts. The anterior caput means the head. Head means the scientific term for head is caput. So, caput epididymis is the first part of epididymis. The middle is the body or the corpus epididymis, and the posterior, which is the tail region, is the cauda epididymis. All right, so all of these, what do? They store sperms. So the sperms which are released, the spermatozoa which are released by the or come from the seminiferous tubules, they travel to the retitestis and then they reach the vasi frenchii and then they reach the epididymis. So these are the various regions of the epididymis where the sperm goes and it is stored temporarily. I told you about a month it can be stored in the epididymis, right? So these are the different parts that we had done yesterday. Now, vas deferens arises from the cauda, the tail part of the epididymis. Ascends, I told you, it goes up into the abdomen, and the passage is same, the inguinal canal. The passage is same, which is the inguinal canal with the along the spermatic cord. So that is the region through which it goes inside. Passes over the urinary bladder. Passes over the urinary bladder. If you recall the structure I had shown you, and once again I'm going to show you, it passes over the urinary bladder and as it moves down towards the urethra, it receives a duct from the seminal vesicle. So these are the seminal vesicles are the accessory glands that I'm going to teach you today. And the duct of the vas deferens and the seminal vesicle, they join to form a common duct, which is the ejaculatory duct, and this opens into the urethra. So this also I'm going to teach you. I'm going to show you the diagram today. All right. So this is what we had done yesterday. All these points are just a revision for you. Ejaculatory duct, which is a combination of the vas deferens, duct of vas deferens, plus the seminal vesicle. So the duct of vas deferens and the seminal vesicle unite to form the ejaculatory duct that passes through the prostrate. Prostrate is another gland, another unpaired gland, and opens into the urethra. Urethra also receives the ducts of the prostrate and Copper's gland. So Copper is another accessory glands. Seminal vesicles, they produce the seminal fluid. So all this I'm going to tell you, and the seminal fluid's action also we are going to discuss today. So let us just recall the structure. So the male reproductive system, you can just see, this was the earlier diagram that I have shown you. So we are going to discuss the various accessory glands today. And this was yesterday's where I told you about these are the, the sperm is formed in the seminiferous tubules. The sperm, after being formed in the seminiferous tubule, comes here and comes to the retitestis, then comes to the vasa efferentia, then goes into the head, body, and the tail part of the epididymis. And then from here you have the vas deferens, and this is the vas deferens that ascends into the pelvic cavity. All right, and this is the spermatic cord, and this is the epididymis. This diagram we'd already discussed yesterday. I hope there's no doubt in this, the position and structure of these secondary sexual organs in male. Here is a better view of the accessory glands of the male, and you can see what are the three accessory glands which are shown. So the first one is the seminal vesicle. This is the seminal vesicle. And if you just trace from here, so this is the vas deferens or the ductus deferens. So you can see that it just comes over the urinary bladder. It comes over the urinary bladder and comes down. So this is there are two vas deferens. So it ascends into the abdomen, comes over the urinary bladder, and as it moves down towards the ureter, there is the swollen region called the ampulla. So ampulla, this is also a place where sperms are stored secondarily. Now from here, This is the duct of the vas deferens, and this is the first gland, which is the seminal vesicle. So now this the sperms will now meet the seminal vesicle. So the seminal vesicle has got this duct. So the duct of the seminal vesicle and the duct of the vas deferens, they unite to form the ejaculatory duct. They unite to form the ejaculatory duct that opens into the urethra. So this is the urethra. Male has got a long urethra, and urethra is the common passage for urine and sperms. However, at one time only one secretion can pass through, whereas female has separate opening for gametes and urine. Okay, so this is the seminal vesicle, and as we move down, just locate the different accessory glands. Then you have this prostrate, which is just one gland. It's like a donut shape, and this is one prostrate gland. This is the prostrate gland. I'll tell you the functions of all of these, and as urethra moves down, there's this another pea-shaped gland, and this is the Cowper's gland or the bulbourethral gland. They are also two in number, and you can see this. So all the way, the urethra is long, and urethra is divided into three parts, as I told you. The first part is the near the urinary bladder is the part which is the prostatic urethra. Then you have the smaller membranous urethra, and then the longer penile urethra. So in the coming up diagrams, you'll be able to see the position of the different parts of the urethra. All right. So coming to the accessory glands are called accessory, but their role is immense. It's like very important. Otherwise, sperms which are released from the epididymis and the vas deferens, they are not motile, and they are just driven by the peristaltic actions. They are not active, and they are unable to move. All right. So what makes the sperms active? What makes the sperm capable to enter into the female reproductive tract, and millions of sperms go, and why only some of them have the opportunity to fertilize the ovum? All that we are going to do today, and all that we are going to discuss. But let us first do the accessory glands. So the first one is the seminal vesicle. The seminal vesicle and seminal vesicle, they are paired structures. So they are two, one on each side, and they are convoluted. You can see that there is coil structure. So if they are convoluted and around 5 centimeters in length. So see, dimensions are not important, but yes, comparative you should know. There's no need to just mug up the dimensions as it is. You're going to forget it, but you should just have an idea, rough idea about the size. You may need it for certain MCQs to compare. Then where does it lie? It lies posterior to the urinary bladder. So lowermost part of the urinary bladder, you see the seminal vesicle, and anterior to the rectum, obviously. And they produce the seminal fluid. And what is this seminal fluid? This is a very active fluid. A seminal fluid has various important substances. So some of the important substances present in the seminal fluid are fructose. So some of the important substances in the seminal fluid are fructose. Fructose you will find nowhere in the female reproductive system you have fructose. So fructose. So what fructose is a monosaccharide. So it is utilized by the sperms in the production of ATP, right? So fructose is very important. It gives energy to the sperms. It has a nutritive effect. It gives nutrition to the sperms. It provides energy. Next important are the prostaglandins. You often asked questions on prostaglandins. So what are prostaglandins? Prostaglandins are a very important group of substances present in the seminal fluid. And I told you they are a derivative of arachidonic acid. And what do they do exactly? They help in sperm motility. They make the sperms motile. And what do? They also, you know, they make the sperms. So as soon as the semen, actually it's not sperm, when the secretion of all these three glands gets mixed in the sperms, then it is called semen. All right. So when the semen is released into the female reproductive tract, what do? They stimulate contraction of the muscles within the female reproductive tract so that the sperms, you know, they are capable to move upward into the reproductive tract of the female. You understanding? So prostaglandins are very important. They are like they are important because the entire motility what the sperm gets, you know, when it has to move into the female reproductive tract. See, imagine sperms have to travel such a long distance. Sperms have to travel such a long distance after being produced, ejaculated, after being ejaculated out of the male body. They have to go into the female body, and over there also they should retain that motility. They should retain that motility, and that's why prostaglandins are present in the seminal fluid. And what do the prostaglandins do? Prostaglandins aid the sperms with the power of motility. And what do? They stimulate contractions. They stimulate contractions uh, of the sperms. Sorry, of the smooth muscles, so that, you know, in the female reproductive tract. So while in the female reproductive tract, they stimulate the smooth muscle contractions, and that helps in the movement of the sperms. All right, in the female reproductive tract. Hope we've understood the function of prostaglandins. Next important thing is what is present in the seminal fluid is the clotting factor. Clotting proteins or clotting proteins are also very important. What do the clotting proteins do? They help the semen to coagulate. They help the semen to coagulate. So basically, it has the fibrinogens uh, that, you know, help in coagulation of the semen after ejaculation. And you will also see that there are certain proteins that also help in the uh, I mean, first it undergoes coagulation, and later it also, you know, becomes thinner. So see, once ejaculated from the male body, once ejaculated from the male body, the sperms have to coagulate, and that is helped by the clotting proteins like fibrinogen, clotting proteins like fibrinogen. All right. So also also the the nature of the seminal fluid is alkaline. The nature of the seminal fluid is alkaline. So the seminal fluid is alkaline in nature. And what is the importance of this alkaline nature? So this alkaline nature of the seminal fluid, that helps to neutralize the acidity of the um, acidity in the male urethra. So you know that you know the urinary bladder produces urine which is carried by the urethra, and the urine is acidic. So the pH in the urethra, all the time in the urethra, is acidic. Now, while the secretion of the seminal fluid is alkaline in nature, so this alkaline nature of the seminal fluid, it helps to neutralize the acidic environment of the male urethra as well as the female reproductive tract. I told you the female reproductive tract. Can you just tell me how come the female reproductive tract has an acidic pH? Because of Lactobacillus acidophilus. Very good, Shruti. So because of Lactobacillus acidophilus, the female reproductive tract is acidic in nature, has got acidic pH, and this alkaline nature of the seminal fluid is mixing in there on the sperms, and two things it is doing. The alkaline nature of the seminal fluid, you know, helps to neutralize the acidity in the urethra, in the male urethra, and also while the semen enters the female reproductive tract, there also it is saved from that acidity. Okay, so this is the use of the alkaline nature of the seminal fluid. And one very important thing that you have to know about the seminal fluid is it contributes around 60 to 70%, 60 to 70% of the volume of semen. So this is the highest contributor, maximum contribution. Anything, any question like this? Which of the following accessory glands in male contributes to the maximum of the seminal fluid? So it is 60% to 70% volume uh, of the semen is by uh, the seminal fluid. All right. So 60% to 70% volume of the semen is because of the seminal fluid. All right. So these things you have to remember, the things which are present in the seminal fluid and its alkaline nature, and by what volume, how much volume, how much total volume of the semen is contributed by the seminal vesicle is important. Okay, so this is all for seminal vesicle that you have to remember. Next, we come to the next important gland, which is the prostate gland. So here is the prostate gland. As you can see, it is single. It is single. So it's single, and it is somewhat donut shaped, size of a ball, golf ball, you know, and around 4 centimeters. So this is smaller. Obviously, this is smaller than the seminal vesicle. And this is present inferior to the urinary bladder. So this is the urinary bladder, and this is inferior downwards. So inferior to the urinary bladder, and surrounds the you know, prostatic urethra. I told you this portion of the urethra is prostatic urethra. So prostatic urethra is surrounded by the prostate gland. Hence the name is like that, as you can make out. So this is the so this part of the urethra, which is the prostatic urethra, is surrounded by the prostate gland. And one fact about the prostate gland is the prostate gland size increases, from birth to puberty. So from birth to puberty, it increases and up to, and keeps increasing up to, 30 years. And 30 years after that, it becomes really stable, constant up to 45 years. But there could be enlargement in the prostate due to some infection or some disorder. So such kind of a disorder is called benign prostate hyperplasia. This is a disease where the prostate gland enlarges, especially in elderly men. So this disease is called the hyperplasia of the prostate gland. So it is also popularly called the benign prostate hyperplasia. This is a surgical condition where enlargement of the prostate gland takes place with advancing age. So the only option is the removal of the prostate gland. So that process is called prostatectomy. So this process, removal of the prostate gland. So prostatectomy is removal of the prostate gland, and this BPH, benign prostate hyperplasia, is enlargement of the prostate gland. Prostate gland secretes a milky, slightly acidic fluid called the prostatic fluid. And this fluid contributes 20 to 25% of the volume of semen. 20 to 25% of the volume of the semen. This contributes 20 to 25% of the volume of semen. What is there in the prostatic fluid? You should know. So that is very important. And you have different substances like citric acid. So I'm telling you the components of the prostatic fluid. So citric acid is there. Citric acid, as you can see, citric acid is used in the production of ATP. It acts like a substrate, and it is used in the production of ATP via the Krebs cycle. So in the semen, when it is when the sperms receive the secretion of the prostate gland, citric acid is added to it, and citric acid is used to generate ATP via the Krebs cycle inside the sperms. You have the mitochondria, right, in the sperms. Okay? Then you have lysozymes, certain enzymes also in the prostrate gland. So you have lysozymes, which are antibacterial in action. You have amylases. These are the different enzymes which are present in lysozyme is there. You have amylase. You have hyaluronidase. This is very important. While we study fertilization, I'm going to tell you the importance of hyaluronidase. They also have an important role in breaking the clotting proteins from the seminal vesicle. Now see, you know what? As the sperm gets mixed with the secretion of the seminal vesicle, it coagulates, and as it comes in the prostrate, uh, these enzymes, they also can break the clotting factors and again make the uh, semen thinner. All right. So it becomes thick, it becomes thin. So clotting factors are added and clotting factors are broken down, right? So these are the different citric acid, lysozyme, amylase, hyaluronidase. These are some enzymes, and one very important, antibacterial, antibiotic substance which is present is seminal plasmin. The seminal plasmin destroys the bacteria present in the semen as well as in the lower female reproductive tract. So seminal plasmin is a substance which is also present. Seminal plasmin is a substance which is also present in the prostatic fluid that is antibacterial, destroys the bacteria present in the semen as well as the lower part of the female reproductive tract, and the entire prostatic fluid, reaches the urethra by the help of various small ducts. Okay, small prostatic ducts. So this is what you have to remember for the prostate gland, right? So these are the important. This is the important information about the prostate gland. Remember, it is only single, and enlargement is called benign prostate hyperplasia, and the surgical removal of prostate is prostatectomy. Prostate gland contributes only 20 to 25% of the total volume of the semen, and it contains various substances like citric acid, certain enzymes, and the seminal plasmin, which acts like a antibacterial substance. Okay, corpus or the bulbourethral gland is, again, you can see that they are two in number and they are smaller. So they are two in number, and here we are going to write about the bulbourethral gland. So they are two in number, paired, like the size of they are like, pea-sized, shape of a pea, two in number, inferior to the prostate gland, on either side of the membranous urethra. Now see, this part is the prostate urethra. This is the membranous urethra, and the long is the penile urethra. So they are present around the membranous urethra. Okay. And what is the function of the corpus gland? What is the function of the corpus gland? The corpus gland, see, during sexual arousal, these secrete a lubricating fluid. A lubricating fluid is produced by the bulbourethral gland, and this lubricating fluid, it neutralizes the acids in the urethra. You understand it? So while the seminal vesicle, the alkaline nature of the seminal fluid also neutralize the acidic environment of the male urethra, the secretion of the corpus gland secretes, during sexual arousal, it secretes an alkaline fluid. So, and that alkaline fluid flows into the urethra, and that protects the passing sperms, from the, from the action of the acids. So always in this tract. Now, suppose there was urine in this tract. Now, during the time of sexual arousal, when the sperms are coming this way, in this passage in the urethra, So the bulbourethral glands, they secrete an alkaline lubricating fluid that, in a way, coats the sperms in a manner that they are not affected by the acids of the male urethra. Also they secrete mucus. This lubricating fluid secretes mucus that lubricates the end of the penis and the lining of the urethra. So two things, there are two functions. So it prevents the damage of the sperms basically. So you should understand the difference between the functional difference between the seminal vesicle and the Copper's gland. Seminal vesicle has this seminal fluid, secretes seminal fluid that provides fructose and all these prostaglandins and all. And in whole, the secretion, the seminal fluid is alkaline in nature, so it helps to neutralize the acidity over here. The bulbourethral gland secretes a lubricating fluid. Now, when the sperms are in this passage, they are coated by this lubricating fluid and they are protected from the action of the acids, which was because of the urine present there earlier. Also, it coats a mucus layer. It secretes mucus that that lubricates the end of the penis and the lining of the urethra, decreasing the number of damaged sperms. So it basically protects the sperms. I hope you've understood the function of the bulbourethral gland, what I wanted to tell you. So, and what is the contribution? It contributes very less. The least contribution is by the Copper's gland. So if they ask you which was the highest contributor, so it will be seminal vesicle, and the least is Copper's gland. All right. You can see a closer view over here. This is the ampulla part of the vas deferens, and this is the seminal vesicle and an enlarged view. And here the ducts of the vas deferens and the seminal vesicle combine and form the ejaculatory duct, which opens into the urethra. So see, urethra is a common passage for both urine and semen, and therefore it is called the urinogenital tract. So why it is called the urinogenital tract? This is because it is the common passage for urine and sperms. Now, next organ which we are going to do is the penis, which is the copulatory organ. And penis, I will tell you that, what are the different parts of the penis. And like the terminal part is called the glans penis, that is covered with a fold of skin called the prepuce. And the penis contains spongy erectile tissue. Erectile tissue, that means it is supplied with blood and nerves, and it becomes filled with blood during sexual excitement. And there are two structures which are present into the body of the penis. We will do. There is single corpus spongiosum and two corpora cavernosa. So all these things I'm going to explain you in the next slide. So let us see this. This is the structure of urethra and penis. So earlier structures, you are clear. Let's just locate. So this is they haven't shown the urinary, they have not shown the seminal vesicle. Look at the prostrate gland, and this is the ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct opens into the prostrate gland, and here you have the Copper's gland, just here. Look at this Copper's gland. This is the prostrate. This is the Copper's gland. Now from here, after the membranous urethra, I told you, this is the prostatic urethra. Prostatic urethra surrounded by the prostrate. Then you have the membranous urethra, which has these P-shaped structures, which are bulbourethral glands or Copper's gland. And the entire structure in length is the penile urethra. So penile urethra is surrounded by the penis, as you can see that the penis has three parts: the root, the body, and the glans penis. So what are the three different parts of the penis? So penis is the copulatory organ in a male. Penis is the copulatory organ in a male. And what are the three different parts? What are the three different parts present in the penis? Penis contains the urethra. Penis contains the urethra. So it is the copulatory organ. Contains urethra. Which urethra? Penile urethra. So this is the copulatory organ. By this organ, the male semen is released into the female reproductive tract. This is the copulatory organ. Cylindrical in shape, this is cylindrical in shape and consists of three parts. What are the three different parts? The root, the body, and the glans penis. We have located all these three parts. Once again, I'm showing you the root just behind the corpus, then the body, and the anterior part, which is the glans penis. Now the body of the penis consists of three cylindrical masses of tissues, and they're surrounded by tunica albuginea. The upper dorsolateral masses are called, look at this, corpora cavernosa. Look at the location. And so you have two in the body. There are two dorsolateral masses called the corpora cavernosa, and there is a smaller mass. There's a smaller mass of spongy tissue called the corpus spongiosum. So three different parts. So the body of penis is composed of three cylindrical masses of tissues. Each is surrounded by tunica albuginea. So the three masses of tissues are corpora cavernosa. They are two in number, present on the mid dorsal side. Present on the dorsolateral side, sorry. So we'll draw a diagram to explain it. So you have this corpus cavernosa, 2, and 1 corpus spongiosum. So where are these structures present? ये body वाले part में है. ये जो body वाला part है ना, उसमें they are present. And in what way they are present? In what way they are present? Yes, suppose I'll make a diagram over here. You'll be able to visualize. Suppose you have this as just seeing from the top, और एक उसका section देख रहे हो from the top. So you have two structures called the corpus cavernosa and एक, so mid dorsal region पे जो है that is corpus cavernosa, and the distal end has corpus spongiosum, और इसमें उसके सब blood vessels हैं. There'll be more blood vessels, and this is tunica albuginea. So this is which part? This is, so I'm telling you कि body में यहाँ का section अगर लो, so what will you find? We're talking about the body of the penis. So I told you the body of the penis has two dorsolateral masses. देखो dorsal side में dorsolateral masses, ये दोनों है corpora cavernosa. So यहाँ पे just make the line till here, corpora cavernosa, and this is corpus spongiosum. This is the midventral side, midventral mass. This is the dorsolateral mass. This is the midventral mass. And it is surrounded by tunica albuginea. You're familiar with this. mass of connective tissue. Okay, and all these masses are also surrounded by skin and subcutaneous layer. ठीक है? So the distal end, ये जो distal end है, now see, ऊपर वाला जो parts है, it has corpora cavernosa and नीचे वाला part has corpora spongiosum, corpus spongiosum. Corpus spongiosum के distal end पे, distal end का margin ऐसे rounded है. ये जो rounded margin है ना, ये जो rounded margin है, this rounded margin is called corona. इसमें glands भी होते हैं. Anterior region is known as glans penis और glans penis में एक skin की fold है that is called prepuce of foreskin. Sometimes due to some problems, foreskin को पूरा या आधा हटाना पड़ता है. That's called, what is that surgical procedure called? It's called circumcision. Sometimes some religious, it is due to some religious things also. But circumcision is also performed. So whatever be the reason, the process is called circumcision. Circumcision is partial or removal or total removal of the prepuce, foreskin of the glans penis. All right. So I hope you've understood the different parts of the penis. So the different parts, once again, we will do. First of all, you should know the three different parts of the urethra. Male in urethra is long. It's called the urinogenital tract because it is the common passage for urine and sperm. You have the prostatic urethra, membranous urethra, and penile urethra. And the penile urethra has the copulatory organ surrounded by the copulatory organ called the penile urethra is carried by the copulatory organ, the penis. And penis, what are the different structures, different parts of the penis? The root, the body, and the glans penis. And root has two parts, the bulb and the crus. Bulb and the crus. The body has three cylindrical masses of tissues, two corpora cavernosa and one which is the corpus spongiosum. Corpus spongiosum's end is rounded and is called corona. Okay, and corona also has glands. And this is the external urethral orifice or opening. This is the opening and this is the common passage for urine and sperms. And here is the prepuce or foreskin. Understood? So any question which is asked from the structure over here, I think you will be able to answer. Nothing more than this you have to study from this part. I hope the structure is clear to you. Corona is that, it's actually that distal part of the, corpus spongiosum. Corpus spongiosum जहाँ पे खत्म होता है ना, wherever the corpus spongiosum ends, ये जो rounded part है, this is corona. The rounded margin is the corona. Okay? The rounded margin is the corona. And you should also know circumcision. Surgical removal of the foreskin of the glans penis is circumcision. Now we have done the primary sex organ of the male reproductive system. Primary sex organ of the male reproductive system, which was the testis. I showed you the TS of the testis also and all the parts. And we discussed the process of spermatogenesis also. Then we have also done the secondary sexual organs in the male, that is the duct system and all that. We also did now today the accessory glands, okay? And finally, what one thing that is very important, and you get questions from there, the homology between male and female, as I told you yesterday. So this is like very important, I'll just tell you. Just have a look. So female structure ovary has the same homology like the testis. Ovum, female gamete, sperm, male gamete. Labia majora, external fold of the skin, is homologous to the scrotum in the male. Labia minora, the internal fold that surrounds the vestibule. This is homologous to the spongy penile urethra or the penile urethra. Vestibule, which is the portion surrounded by the labia minora, is homologous to the membranous urethra. And the bulb of the vestibule corresponds to the corpus spongiosum and the bulb of the penis. Understanding? And there are other things also which are homologous. I'm just going to tell you. So you do get questions from here. Like the greater vestibular glands. I had told you about the greater vestibular glands. Greater and lesser vestibular gland. This is also called the Bartholin's gland. And this is homologous to the bulbourethral gland or the corpus gland. Then you have the lesser vestibular gland, and this is homologous to the prostrate gland in male. Bulb of vestibule, homologous to the corpus spongiosum, penis, and the bulb of penis. All the others are fine. All right. So this is the summary of the homologous structures of male and female reproductive system. Now, finally, we have to learn about the semen. What exactly is semen? What is the composition of semen? That can be asked as a question. And what exactly is there in the semen? So semen is a mixture of sperms and secretion of all the three accessory glands. So how much is the sperm? How much percentage is contributed by sperms, and how much is the contribution of the glands? Now we're going to note down certain things about these semen. So this contains 10% of sperms and 90% of the seminal plasma. So this is basically the secretion donated by all the three glands. So the majority is contributed by the seminal vesicle, hence the name seminal plasma. So seminal plasma is actually the liquid that contains secretions of all the seminiferous tubules, seminal vesicles. All of them will come under all will be included in the seminal plasma, prostrate and bulbourethral gland. So if they ask you in the MCQs, you should be able to eliminate. So semen is 10% sperms and 90% seminal plasma, and that is contributed by seminiferous tubules. So seminiferous tubules also produce a secretion that is added in the sperms. Seminal vesicle secretion, prostate secretion, and the bulbourethral gland secretion. And what is the volume of a typical ejaculation? Produces or releases what volume of sperms? So it releases typically 2.5 to 5 ml of semen in a single ejaculation, produces 50 to 120 million sperms. 50 to 120 million sperms. So you can imagine what is the sperm count. But that's not important, It's not like that. Then when the volume of semen will be more will be the sperm count. It's not like that. The volume may be more, the sperm count may be less. The volume may be less, the sperm count may be more. What is important is the sperm count, the active sperms which are released. Because what has to fuse in the female reproductive tract is the sperms. So this is the number 50 to 120 millions per ml. So in a standard ejaculation, this is the sperm count. When the sperm count goes below 30, below 20, so such a condition is called oligospermia. And we will discuss about these clinical conditions where the sperm count becomes low and the female, in such cases, the couple suffer from, late pregnancies, or there is no pregnancy at all, and then they have to consult the doctor. So oligospermia is a condition in which the sperm count falls below 20 million per ml, because the standard count is 50 to 120. So 20 and below is called oligospermia. All right. So this is all about the semen. So in this class, in today's class, we have completed the secondary sexual organs in a male, sorry, and the accessory glands, and we also did about the semen and a comparative account of the organs of the homologous organs of male and female.